My long-distance husband, Cameron, claimed he had to work through the holidays, so I decided to fly out and surprise him. The only seats left were business class. I stared at the 5-figure price tag, swallowed hard, and wiped out a year's savings. Naturally, when I finally settled in, I couldn't even figure out how to pull out the tray table. The impeccably dressed woman next to me sneered, "First time in business, honey?" I managed an awkward smile. "I'm sorry, you must be an executive, you look incredibly successful." She scoffed, running a hand over her custom-tailored jacket. "Me? No, my sugar daddy is the CEO. If a plane doesn't have business class, he charters a private jet for me." I blinked. A sugar daddy? That must be a rare arrangement. Not really, I'm his junior employee. I make mistakes all the time, cost him a fortune. Actually, he's always yelling at me and making me cry, then I cry, and then you know. How ironic, I murmured. My husband also has a female coworker who's always messing up. You're married? She looked me up and down, a look of casual disdain. My daddy has a wife around your age. He says he's been over her for years, that she's got zero novelty, nothing like when I just flip my hair, you know? I told him I wanted to see him for the new year. Poof, he tells his wife he has to work overtime. My eyes locked onto the diamond on her ring finger. It was the exact duplicate of the wedding band I'd lost years ago. A cold, sick dread seized me. Wait, Cameron was a mid-level manager, scraping by. When did he become a CEO? I stared at her ring finger. That ring, it's a wedding ring. Did you and your daddy get married? This? Kaya examined the solitaire, turning it slowly. Oh, I made him take it from his original wife. I froze. I hadn't planned to give the old broad a hard time, Kaya continued, her voice light and careless, but then she had the audacity to lose the baby and need him at the hospital right on my birthday. I spent my birthday completely alone. I instinctively placed my hand on my stomach, the memory of that cruel winter flooding back. I was 3 months along, the black ice on the sidewalk outside our tiny rented apartment. Cameron was earning so little back then, an e-bike was a luxury. I fell hard, the baby, just blood on the ground. Cameron had stayed with me for 3 days and 3 nights, but when I woke up, the wedding ring was gone along with the child. It's okay, Grace, he'd whispered, holding me tight. We'll have another baby, I'll buy you a new ring. I shook my head, tears blurring everything. No, you said the company was doing layoffs. We need to save. When you make it big, then you can buy me a new one. He looked at me, his eyes red, on the verge of crying. I'm sorry, I failed you. Kaya's voice pulled me back. So, you just asked him to take his wife's ring and give it to you? Yep, he actually refused at first, said he'd buy me a more expensive one, but that old woman was so arrogant just because she was his wife. If I didn't punish her, she'd be walking all over me, right? I clamped my jaw shut. Honestly, this diamond is cheap compared to what else he buys me, but it's the wedding ring. Kaya leaned back and gave me a smug smile. A woman who lets herself get to that point, she deserves nothing better. I squeezed the fabric of my dress until my knuckles were white. I forced a small, sickly smile. Your daddy is so generous. His wife must be getting quite the payoff to keep her quiet, right? Kaya laughed, leaning in conspiratorially. Tell you a secret, the old woman still doesn't even know he's a CEO. Why? Kaya admired her diamond-studded manicure, because what's the point? She spent all her best years struggling with him. If you were a man, once you got rich, would you spend money on a wife who's past her prime? Can money bring back her youth? The reflection in the window glass showed my own slightly drawn, exhausted face. Kaya nudged me. Sister, you're older than me, but you still have potential. We have a connection, so let me give you some advice. Women need to invest in fillers and skincare. Your skin looks a little dry. I bet your husband isn't interested in you much anymore, is he? I simply stared at her. Her skin was flawless, taut. I used to look like that, maybe even better. 10 years of poverty and hard work in rented apartments. When I see old photos, I barely recognize myself. Skincare is expensive. So what? Kaya shrugged. My daddy gives me a $50,000 monthly allowance, and he covers all my beauty treatments. I watched the way her perfectly winged eyeliner caught the light, a tiny shard of glitter fixed at the corner. My hands were shaking. How long have you been his trophy? Since June 12th. 2023, why? My trembling intensified. June 12th, 2023. The day my mother died. My mother needed $150,000 for surgery. I remembered Cameron begging everyone. He gathered all his savings, all his earnings, scraping together $100,000. It was everything he had. I found $8,000 more. It wasn't enough. My mother was gone. He held me, tears pouring down his face. I failed you, Grace. I'm a bastard. I couldn't even earn enough for your mother's medicine. You suffer so much being with me. My heart was a raw wound, but I wiped his tears away. You did your best. Mom knew it. I know it. I'm the one who couldn't find the rest of the $50,000. His tears fell onto my hands. He gripped me tightly. Just wait. I promise. We won't struggle like this anymore. I nodded through my grief. $50,000. He could have gotten it. Sister, you know what? That month, his wife's mother also needed $50,000 for her care. Kaya winked, he was going to give it to her. I stopped breathing. Did he give it to you for your allowance instead? No, he's rich, $50,000 is nothing to him. I told him if her mother died, the wife would be totally alone, without any family, then, even if she found out about me, she wouldn't dare leave him. My teeth were about to shatter. Plus, I really had my eye on a new Chanel that month, it was exactly $50,000. I glared at her, aren't you afraid his wife will find out what you did? Please, I'm smarter than that, Kaya laughed. I told him to give his wife $100,000, to pretend it was every penny he had, that way, she'd think her husband tried his best and she'd never look into his bank accounts. Her face soured momentarily, the only thing that sucked was his reason for agreeing to it. He said it was because he wanted to prevent the old woman from leaving him if she ever discovered me. Ugh, she's luckier than she knows. Smack! A stinging slap landed unexpectedly across Kaya's face, her drink overturned. A flight attendant rushed over to clean the mess. Kaya was furious. Are you insane? What the hell was that for? That, I spat, is for being a brazen homewrecker. The flight attendants hurried to separate us, moving Kaya to an empty seat farther down the row, soothing her with soft voices. Kaya finally settled, drying her hands with a napkin from the flight attendant, and looked at me with pure contempt. I hate sanctimonious busybodies like you, always harping on about mistresses. Honestly, she scoffed, it just means you're old and you can't hook a man anymore. Back in your prime, you would have begged for this life. You, the flight attendant grabbed my arm, stopping me from lunging. I bit down on my retort and sank back into my seat. I didn't want to cause trouble for the crew. Kaya eyed me again. I'm telling you the truth, you're past your expiration date. Your husband is definitely cheating on you, too. Go home and check his phone. A woman like you men don't want to come home to. Splash! The new drink the flight attendant had just given me sailed through the air and hit Kaya full in the face. She shrieked. Attendants rushed between us again. The purser approached me, smiling apologetically. Ms. Jones, this woman is a valuable client of ours. Please, calm down. May I get you some fruit? Valuable client? I hissed. The purser leaned in, lowering her voice. She is with Mr. Coleman, the new CEO. I'm advising you for your own good, Ms. Jones. Mr. Coleman is very protective of her. I laughed, a bitter, broken sound. The plane landed at the connecting airport. Neither of us was disembarking yet. I switched off airplane mode. I sent a text to Cameron. Where are you? He replied instantly with a photo of himself at a desk, earning money for my wife. For me, or for someone else? No reply. I sent a question mark. The familiar voice came from Kaya's direction a moment later. You got juice thrown on you? Who would dare do that to my sweetheart? Some old woman. It's your fault. If you were here, she wouldn't have touched me. You ruined my trip. Okay, daddy's fault. Zelle transfer, $50,000. Kaya's phone chimed with the automated voice notification. Cameron's voice was warm. Go buy some little things you love. I gripped my armrests. Kaya's scowl vanished, replaced by a pout. No use, you said you missed me and wanted to spend New Year's with me. I wouldn't have been on this flight if it weren't for that lunatic. No amount of money will fix this. Cameron didn't sound annoyed, he sounded amused. And what about the new villa daddy bought you? Kaya's eyes widened slightly. My sweetheart smiled. Are you happy now? No, I am not. She pouted again, but fine, I'll give you a chance, only because I love you. Good, daddy will make it up to you tonight, okay? 3 hours, not a second less. The whole night, if you want. My body shook violently beneath my dress. I thought of our last few visits after he'd been transferred to the city. We barely went beyond hugging and kissing. Every time I tried to initiate sex, he would sigh. I'm too stressed from work, let me recuperate, okay? And he'd leave before he had the chance. Kaya blew a kiss to the camera and ended the video call. It was then that Cameron's text came through. Wife, why don't you trust me? Are you sad I have to work through New Year's? When I get back, I'll take you to that little rotating hot pot place you love, okay? The plane started its taxi toward the runway. A flight attendant approached Kaya's new seat with a black, embossed box. Miss Rhodes, this is a gift a gentleman asked us to deliver to you. Oh. A Prada necklace. How did he know I wanted this one? The attendant smiled and handed her a card. Mr. Coleman also asked us to relay a message. He hopes Miss Rhodes won't be troubled by any noise, that you remain brave and true to yourself, and that you regard all obstacles as nothing. Mr. Coleman will always stand behind you, and he will always love you. I closed my eyes, staring at Cameron's text about the cheap hot pot place. Miss Jones, this diamond is from Mr. Coleman for you. The purser handed me a loose stone. I frowned. For me? The purser nodded. Mr. Coleman knows you and Ms. Rhodes had an unpleasant exchange. He said Ms. Rhodes has high blood pressure and the doctor said she mustn't get upset. So, Ms. Jones, Mr. Coleman asks that you apologize to Ms. Rhodes, a sincere apology. I looked at the diamond and laughed, a sound utterly devoid of humor. Just an apology? Isn't this a bit much? Ha ha, don't worry about the cost, Mr. Coleman can earn several of these in a single day. A diamond that costs 6 figures, he could earn several a day? I rolled the small stone between my fingers. I smiled. A stranger was getting more than I ever did. I nodded. Fine, an apology it is. Miss Rhodes, Mr. Coleman has sent her to apologize to you. I bowed slightly. I'm sorry for striking you. Please forgive me, Miss Rhodes. Oh, I will. Kaya rose from her seat. Let me slap you twice, and I'll forgive you. The purser quickly interjected. Miss Rhodes, she is older than you. Please be the bigger person and don't stoop to her level. So what if she's older? Kaya's smile was vicious. This face is already a lost cause anyway. A few slaps won't make a difference. No man will like her either way. I'll slap her. She gets a diamond, and she should be grateful. An attendant tugged my sleeve. Ma'am, maybe just let her. The whole thing will be over. She is Mr. Coleman's guest. Yes, Miss Jones, it's a 6-figure diamond. It's not a loss for you. 6 figures, I would have to struggle and save for a decade to get that much. This tiny stone could buy 10 years of my life. I twisted the diamond one last time. Clatter. I tossed it onto Kaya's tray table. It rolled and dropped to the floor. I don't want it. Smack. A slap landed hard on my cheek. Kaya hadn't hesitated. How dare you refuse my charity? The blow was fully intended to hurt. I staggered back 2 steps. An attendant rushed to steady me. Miss Jones, let it go. Miss Rhodes has always been volatile. We'll find the diamond for you, ma'am. Smack. My hand whipped out, catching Kaya across the face with devastating force. She crumpled back into her seat. You hit me back. You bet your ass I did. I moved to strike her again, but the flight crew intervened, pulling us apart. For the rest of the flight, we were monitored closely by the cabin crew. The plane landed. Kaya, red-eyed and enraged, was the first one off the aircraft. I watched her hurry through the jet bridge and rush through the exit. She collapsed into a man's embrace. Her face was still blotchy from the slap. What happened? Cameron's eyes held more panic than they had on the day of my miscarriage. Did she hit you again? She did. And it's your fault. That cheap diamond only made her bolder. Nobody has ever dared to hit me before. Boo-hoo. Kaya was an expert crier. No man could resist that sound. Where is she? I'll go talk to her. Right here. I stepped out of the jet bridge. Cameron's body went rigid. I lifted the brim of my cap. Hello, Mr. Coleman. The silence that followed was heavy enough to crush bones. Cameron didn't move. His arm was still half extended, caught in the motion of pulling Kaya into his chest. He looked at me, really looked at me, and for a split second, I saw the man I'd married, the soft brown eyes, the slight stoop in his shoulders, but then I looked at the suit. It was Italian wool, silk lining, the watch on his wrist was a Patek Philippe, worth more than the total of every paycheck he'd ever brought home to our cramped apartment. He was a stranger wearing my husband's face. Grace? His voice cracked. It was a pathetic sound. What are you? Why are you here? Kaya pulled back, sensing the shift in atmospheric pressure. She looked from Cameron's pale face to my cold one. She wasn't stupid. She was just cruel. The realization hit her slow and wide, like a stain spreading on silk. Grace? Kaya repeated, her voice shrinking into a confused squeak. Wait, you said your wife was... She pointed a manicured finger at me. This is the old woman? The one who looks like a dried-up housekeeper? Shut up, Kaya, Cameron snapped. It was the first time I'd ever heard him raise his voice to a woman. He took a step toward me, hands raised in a placating gesture I recognized from 1,000 arguments about late rent or broken heaters. Grace, baby, listen to me, this isn't what it looks like. I laughed. It bubbled up from my chest, dry and sharp. It isn't? So, you're not the CEO? You didn't buy her a villa? You didn't let my mother die over $50,000 you had in your pocket the whole time? Cameron flinched as if I'd slapped him. Grace, keep your voice down, people are watching. Let them watch, I said, my voice eerily steady. I want them to see Mr. Coleman, the man who scraped together pennies for his wife's groceries while wearing a $50,000 watch. Kaya's shock was evaporating, replaced by her default setting, indignation. She stomped her foot. Daddy. Why is she yelling at you? Tell security to take her away. She slapped me on the plane. She's crazy. Cameron turned to her, his face contorted in a grimace of pure stress. Kaya, go to the car, now. But. Now. The driver is waiting, get in the Mercedes and shut your mouth. Kaya recoiled, eyes wide. She wasn't used to the command. She glared at me, a mix of hatred and sudden, creeping insecurity, before spinning on her heel and marching toward the exit, her heels clicking a frantic rhythm. Cameron turned back to me, the panic in his eyes was settling into a calculated desperation. He was a CEO, after all, he was used to managing crises. I could see the gears turning, trying to figure out the cheapest way to make this problem go away. "Grace," he said, lowering his voice to a soothing baritone. He reached for my hand. I stepped back. "Look, I know you're upset, you have every right to be, but there are things about my job, things you don't understand, the company. I have to project a certain image. Kaya she's a prop, a distraction for the investors." "A prop you sleep with?" I asked. "It's complicated," he exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I did this for us, Grace. I wanted to build an empire for us, but it's dangerous at the top. I couldn't let you be a target. I had to keep you safe, keep you humble so no one would use you against me." "Keep me humble?" I felt the blood roaring in my ears. "You let me scrub toilets, you let me skip meals, you let me grieve our child in a freezing apartment because you said we couldn't afford the heating bill." I stepped closer, invading his space. I smelled his cologne, sandalwood and money. "And my mother, Cameron? Was letting her die part of your business strategy? Was she a prop too?" His face went gray. I didn't have access to the liquidity then, it was tied up in stocks. I swear, Grace, if I could have saved her, I would have. "Liar," I whispered. "Kaya told me, you gave $50,000 to your wife's mother that same month, but since you have no other wife, and my mother is dead, who got the money, Cameron?" He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. I nodded slowly. "I'm going to destroy you, Cameron. I'm going to take every cent. I'm going to strip the meat from your bones until you are exactly what you pretended to be, a broke, pathetic nobody." "Grace, stop. You're hysterical. You don't know how the world works. You can't survive without me." He tried to harden his expression, shifting from husband to boss. "Go home. I'll transfer $10,000 to your account. We'll talk when I get back. Don't make a scene, or you'll get nothing." I looked at him one last time. I memorized the fear behind his arrogance. "I don't want your allowance, Cameron. I want your life." I turned and walked away. Behind me, he shouted my name, but he didn't chase me. He was too afraid Kaya would see, or perhaps too afraid of what I had become. I didn't go home. Home was a rented one-bedroom with a leaking faucet and memories of poverty that now felt like a staged play. Instead, I walked to the taxi stand. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. I sat in the back of the cab and breathed, counting the seconds. 1, 2, 3. He thought I was the same Grace, the Grace who pinched pennies, who apologized for taking up space. He forgot that I used to handle the finances before we became broke. He forgot that I knew his social security number, his mother's maiden name, and the passwords he used for everything because he was too lazy to change them. I pulled out my phone. I didn't text him. I opened the banking app for the joint account we used for bills, the one that usually had less than $500 in it. It was still meager, $420. But I remembered something. Years ago, before the layoffs, he had added me as an authorized user on a credit card. He told me he'd canceled it. He'd cut up the plastic in front of me. I called the bank. "Identity verification, please," the automated voice droned. I gave them everything. "Miss Coleman, how can I help you?" the representative asked a moment later. "I've lost my card," I said, my voice trembling with a perfect mix of distress and entitlement. "The Platinum Amex. My husband, Cameron, is furious. We're in the city for the new year and I can't pay for anything." "Oh, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Coleman. I see the account here. Mr. Coleman has a very high standing with us. I can authorize a digital card for your mobile wallet immediately, and overnight a physical card to your hotel." "Thank you. Please send it to the Four Seasons." "Of course. Is there anything else?" "What is the limit on that card?" "I need to make a large purchase for his business partner." "It's a Centurion account, ma'am. There is no preset spending limit." I hung up. A minute later, my digital wallet pinged. I tapped the driver on the shoulder. "Change of plans, take me to the Four Seasons." When I checked in, I didn't look like a billionaire's wife. My coat was 3 years old, my boots scuffed. The receptionist gave me a polite, skeptical look until I tapped my phone against the terminal. The payment of $2,500 a night cleared instantly. Her posture straightened. "Welcome, Mrs. Coleman. We have the presidential suite available, if you'd prefer." "I'll take it, and I need a stylist, tonight." "Tonight?" "It's New Year's Eve, ma'am. Most services are booked." "I'm sure for the right price, someone will make time." I went up to the room. It was bigger than my entire apartment. There was a bottle of champagne on ice that cost more than my mother's funeral service. I popped the cork, poured a glass, and walked to the window. The city lights blurred through the tears I finally allowed to fall. I cried for the baby I lost on the ice. I cried for my mother, dying in a hospital bed, apologizing to me for being a burden while Cameron hoarded millions. I cried for the 10 years of my youth I had fed into the furnace of his ego. Then, I stopped. I washed my face in the marble sink. The stylist arrived an hour later. She was a sharp-eyed woman named Elena who clearly asked no questions as long as the credit card worked. "What are we doing?" she asked, looking at my dry hair and pale skin. "I need to look like I own the building," I said, "and I need a dress, something that says widow and war at the same time." Elena smirked. "I know just the designer." My phone had been buzzing nonstop, 42 missed calls from Cameron, 12 texts. "Grace, pick up. Don't do anything stupid. I'm warning you, I can cut you off. Baby, please, let me explain. Kaya is just an employee, I lied to protect you." I ignored them all. I sat in the velvet chair while Elena's team worked on me. They dyed my hair a rich, dark espresso, cutting away the dead ends until it fell in a glossy bob around my jaw. They massaged creams into my skin that cost a fortune. When I looked in the mirror, the tired housewife was gone. The woman staring back was sharp, angular, and cold. "The dress," Elena said, unzipping a garment bag. It was black velvet, strapless, with a slit that went up to my thigh. It was elegant, but violent. I put it on. It fit like a second skin. "Where is he?" I asked myself. I knew exactly where he was. Cameron loved the spotlight. Every New Year's Eve, the company, Coleman Industries, I now knew, held a gala at the Skyline Tower. He had always told me he was working overtime in the warehouse on these nights. I grabbed the clutch Elena had brought. Inside was the new phone I'd bought, the hotel key, and a tube of blood red lipstick. "Thank you," I told Elena. I tipped her $5,000. I took the hotel limousine to the Skyline Tower. The security at the door was tight, men in earpieces checked lists. I watched from the back of the line as limos deposited women in glitter and men in tuxedos. When I reached the front, the guard frowned at his clipboard. "Name? Grace Coleman." He paused, running his finger down the list. "I have a Cameron Coleman, plus guest. Miss Rhodes, I don't see a Grace." "Check the board of directors," I lied smoothly, "or better yet, check who pays your security firm." He hesitated. "Call him," I challenged. "Tell him his wife is here. See if he wants you to make a scene in front of the press." The guard looked at the paparazzi flashing cameras just 10 feet away. He tapped his earpiece. A moment later, his face went pale. "Right this way, Mrs. Coleman, my apologies." I walked into the ballroom. It was a sea of gold and crystal. Waiters moved with trays of caviar. In the center of the room, under a massive chandelier, stood Cameron. He was laughing, holding a champagne flute. Kaya was hanging off his arm, wearing a white dress that looked suspiciously like a bridal gown. She was beaming, flashing the ring he had stolen from me, the ring I had made him take back, only for him to give it to her again. The room was loud, but as I walked toward them, the crowd seemed to part. Maybe it was the dress, maybe it was the look on my face. Kaya saw me first. Her smile dropped. She tugged on Cameron's sleeve. Cameron turned. The glass slipped from his fingers. It shattered on the marble floor, the sound cutting through the chatter like a gunshot. "Grace," he whispered. The music didn't stop, but the people around us did. "Hello, darling," I said, my voice carrying. "You forgot to give me the address for the party. Good thing I'm resourceful." Kaya stepped forward, her face flushing red. What is she doing here? "Security. Get this trash out of here." "Quiet, Kaya," Cameron hissed, stepping between us. He was sweating. "Grace, let's go outside. We can talk in my office." "No," I said, picking a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. "I like it here. It smells like my money." "You're drunk," Cameron said, forcing a smile for the onlookers. "My wife is not feeling well. Everyone, please excuse us." He grabbed my arm, his grip bruising. I didn't pull away. I leaned in close, so only he could hear. "If you drag me out, I will scream. I will tell everyone here about the black ice, about the baby, about my mother, and about the embezzlement you're committing to fund Kaya's lifestyle." I was bluffing about the embezzlement, mostly, but a man who hides a fortune from his wife usually hides things from the IRS too. His grip loosened instantly. Fear, pure, unadulterated fear. "What do you want?" he hissed. "I want a divorce," I smiled, "and I want half, no, actually, since you committed fraud by hiding assets. I think the judge will give me a lot more than half." "You can't prove anything." "I'm holding your Amex Centurion card, Cameron. I just bought a $50,000 wardrobe. I think the paper trail is established." Kaya, sensing she was losing him, shoved past Cameron. "Who do you think you are? You're a nobody." "Daddy, tell her." I looked at the ring on her finger. "Kaya," I said softly, "that ring isn't a gift, it's evidence." I turned to the crowd, raising my voice. "Happy New Year, everyone. My husband, Mr. Coleman, has an announcement. He's so overcome with generosity tonight, he's decided to donate his entire year's bonus to the—" I paused, thinking of my mother, "to the state oncology wing, in memory of his mother-in-law, whom he loved so dearly." The crowd erupted in applause. Cameron stood frozen, his jaw clenched. If he denied it, he looked like a monster. If he agreed, he lost millions. He forced a stiff nod, raising his hand to acknowledge the applause. His eyes, however, were fixed on me, promising murder. "We're not done," he mouthed. I raised my glass to him. "We're just getting started."